If you're starting your own clothing brand right now, I'm going to share with you my 10 biggest lessons from my very first year running my brand. I started up a Canadian lifestyle brand back in 2016, and since then I've done hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales. But my first year was actually this huge struggle. So I'm telling you right now, you could just relax and chill. This video is going to save you so much time and money on your clothing brand journey. These are the things that I wish I knew before I started. It would have made things pop off so much faster for me, and it's going to help you grow your brand like crazy. So here it is. Before we dive into it here, Apparel Success is sponsored by my buds over at BrandCrowd. BrandCrowd's a logo maker tool. You type in the name of the logo that you want, smack that enter button. Thousands of logos will come up. You choose the logo that you like, then you can edit and refine that logo as long as you want for free until it's perfect. This is a Hundo P design I made for my own clothing brand using BrandCrowd. If you're interested, head over to brandcrowd.com/apparel success. You can get up to 66% off at checkout. All right, let's do this. I promise each of these will just get better and better as this video goes on, so make sure you stay until the end so you don't miss any. And I'd love to hear in the comments which of these is the most impactful for your own clothing brand. All right, the first brutal lesson from my very first year running my brand. You know that saying, if you build it, they will come? It's not true. And this was so hard to realize and discover in my first year running my brand. When we first started, I remember my business partner and I were talking about how we didn't order enough t-shirts and we should have ordered more. Meanwhile, we ordered 400 shirts. And it was our very first run of inventory. There was this naive assumption that the second we launched our brand, it would just sort of take off and become contagious and travel word of mouth from person to person, and the marketing would just sort of happen on its own. The saying, if you build it, they will come, should be actually, if you build it, then you also have the responsibility of trying to get it out there to the world and getting it in front of your target audience. So don't make that mistake of putting the responsibility of your brand exploding and getting bigger on your future customers, and take that responsibility into your own hands. You have to be proactive with your marketing strategies, and you have to be the one getting your brand out there. The second biggest lesson from my first year running my clothing brand is that your very first customers are so valuable to your brand. I can't even explain how valuable they are. Our very first customers that stuck their neck out to support our brand that we didn't know personally, and they were complete strangers to us, they ended up being our biggest promotional outlet for our brand in our first year. They ended up tagging us in all these amazing pictures at the lake, telling their friends about our brand, just giving us all this amazing content for social media for like the next 6 months. And it just took me a while to see their true value and see how worth it is to give discounts to your very first customers, because a lot of them are going to be huge promotional pieces for you moving forward. And rather than nickel and diming them for like every single shirt or every single hoodie that you sell, give some at a discount. Even though you're not making as much profit, it'll come back to you in the future with new customers, them being repeat customers, them giving you content all the time, and it just helps light the fire for your brand. The third biggest lesson from my very first year running my brand is that setting up a booth at an event is the best thing I ever did. And the reason why isn't because we did super well and sold a ton of t-shirts and sold a ton of hoodies. We actually did really, really bad at the event and didn't sell all that many products. But the few that we did sell at this event that we showed up, which was a hockey event, and my clothing brand represents rural Canada, so we thought it was pretty matched up. It really showed us who our target audience was. The people who came to the table, who were actually interested and who actually bought. We learned so much about who they were, what they liked, why they were interested in our brand, and it allowed us to really understand our target audience so much better. If we had just tried to sell online constantly and that's all that we were doing, it would have been a lot harder to find our ideal customers. Fourth biggest lesson from my first year is take risks and send a ton of Hail Marys out in the DMs to celebrities and influencers. You just never know what will come of it. And me doing this for my own brand actually led to us landing a massive asset that helped our brand grow into the future. When we first started up our brand, within the first 3 months, I was just like, I don't know, delusional, sending out DMs to like big celebrities and influencers. And I sent out a DM to Classified, who's like this huge Canadian rapper here. Everybody in Canada, for the most part, knows him as a rapper. I just said, hey man, we love your song, Oh Canada, and a couple others. We know you're from Nova Scotia. We'd love to send you a free hat or a free shirt. Just let us know if you're interested. He actually gets back to us and says, yeah, your brand looks sick, send it over. And then like 4 weeks later, I'm on Facebook because I follow him on Facebook, and I see he's doing a Facebook Live, and he's wearing our hat in the Facebook Live, and there's like 20,000 people in this stream, and I'm like, oh my God, like he's wearing our hat. So I screenshot that, and I'm like, this is crazy, he's wearing it. And then literally every single post for the next like 6 months on his Instagram, performing at shows, wherever he goes, he's wearing our hat like everywhere that he goes. So we had so much content of Classified endorsing our brand, and it was absolutely huge for building credibility at the beginning. Literally all that it cost us to acquire that was the fear of potentially being rejected by him and the $10 plus shipping that it cost to make the hat and send it to him. If you're finding this valuable right now for your own clothing brand, if you could just take a second to hit the like button, that would be absolutely amazing. The fifth biggest lesson for my first year running my brand is that your standards are going to constantly evolve and grow. And as you get better and better at this clothing brand game and you make more money with your brand, you're going to constantly raise your standards, and you're just never going to feel truly satisfied with the results that you're getting. When we first started up our clothing brand, I remember feeling like, man, if we could just make a couple grand a month with this brand, it would be absolutely sick. Like I would be 100% happy. Then we started doing that, and immediately it was like, oh, we need to do way more than this. We need to hit 10 grand a month. Then we got to 10 grand a month, and that was like, oh my God, like that would blow our minds, right? But then we hit it, and once you hit it, it just becomes normal, and you just raise your standards again. And this is just an infinite race, and it's like chasing phantoms is what they call it. You can never really truly sink your teeth into that feeling that you're looking for. It's always just evading and moving on and moving further and further away from you. I got to the point where it was like $40,000, $50,000 months, and I was the same level of happiness as when I was making 2 grand a month. It's embarrassing to admit, but I rarely took the time to truly enjoy where I was at on my clothing brand journey, whether it was when I was making 2 grand a month, 10 grand, 20 grand, 40 grand, and I was just constantly looking for the next result. And I just wish I had realized that your fulfillment isn't going to come from your clothing brand and the results that you're getting. It's going to come from the movement you feel like you're making, how you feel about yourself. If you feel like you're doing the greatest work that you can possibly do, anything that you're chasing on the outside is never going to fulfill you fully. The sixth biggest lesson for my first year running my brand, and this one is so important, so pay attention. You are one little tweak or change in your brand away from a massive breakthrough. When I first started up my brand, we launched with 4 tank tops, 4 t-shirts, and 2 hats. They did okay. We had absolutely no idea what we were doing. We got our design made through a designer friend. We thought it looked pretty cool when it first started, but in hindsight, it really wasn't that good at all. About 6 months into our brand, we were really struggling to sell to people that we don't know. I ended up selling a lot of clothing to friends and family and things like that. So it really helped us work our way through that first 400. But beyond that, we had to make a tweak. We had to make a change in order to get to the next level where strangers and people that we didn't know were able to see the value in our brand and buy. 6 months in, we decided to launch a hoodie with a completely new design on it that just looked way cooler, that had a way sicker looking bird on it. And it actually happened to be this design that I'm wearing right now, which is the crest logo. And when we launched this hoodie, we finally were able to crack it open and sell a couple $1,000s worth of hoodies to people that we didn't know on Instagram. They just found it sick. It just resonated with them more. And it was just that one tweak, that one change, new item that we were willing to come out with that completely changed the look of our brand and helped us move forward. The 7th biggest lesson for my first year running my clothing brand is do what needs to be done. In my first year, if you had seen me just strapped a camera to my head and just followed me around with everything that I was doing to try and get this brand out there, it was ridiculous. I was driving from party to party in a Buick, like my old car that basically could like barely hang in there on fumes. And I had like a box of the first t-shirts we came out with in the trunk. And I'd pull up, I'd literally walk into the party with like the box of t-shirts, like so bold, open it up, put it on the counter, and like just start trying to sell t-shirts at these parties to friends. And like that's how I actually moved a lot of the clothing in my very first year. Driving also to like the screen printing facility to pick up all the clothing, driving it back home, organizing it all, spending all the time on social media, just being like absolutely possessed trying to grow your brand. I think that too many people are a bit lazy with their brand in their first year, and they just sort of expect things to happen for them. And so don't be afraid to get your elbows in the mud and put in a little bit of elbow grease and just do what needs to be done to move your brand forward. The 8th biggest lesson from my first year is don't be afraid to be different. The more different you are, the better. This lesson in general took me so long to understand in business. In my first year, I sort of had this like pre-built-in software for how I was going to run things, where I was trying to make everything just look really stylish, look really cool, fit in with what already kind of exists out there. And this is a key part of it. In my mind, I was thinking, oh, this looks sick because these other brands look sick and I'm doing kind of what they're doing. And since their brand is really cool, then my brand must be cool too. And in reality, what I was actually doing was, your brand is just basically trying to become like these other brands. You're doing the same thing that these other brands are doing. Those brands already exist. They don't need you. So as the years went on with my brand, I started to just test new ideas that I was trusting in myself, just new original ideas, new concepts with my brand in terms of marketing, the products that I was coming out with. And every single time I went bold with it and I just did something that nobody's ever done before, like crazy designs or crazy marketing strategies, it always paid off and was the right move. The 9th biggest lesson for my first year running my brand is that being social is everything with your clothing brand. Clothing brands are a social game. And sending out free clothing, not even to people who are celebrities and influencers, but just like sometimes to people who you think would be good models for your brand, or a good photographer that you see on Instagram, reaching out and saying, hey, we love your work. I'd love it if you could create content for us. All of that type of stuff where you're just super nice with people who are within your audience, people that you meet out, people that you meet through friends, to get more content and create more of a buzz around your brand, is a huge skill set that you need to acquire. If you were to go to my clothing brand's Instagram account, you go back to like 2018, 2019, and you scroll through those pictures, all of those people were just people that I met through other people and through friends, and it was all just through being social. There's so many pictures of different models, different people wearing our brand, and it was people who just supported us through the word of mouth of sort of this like social buzz that we created around our brand. And I just think that if you're running your brand and you're not treating it as if it's like a social thing, it's just so important for you to know in your first year. The 10th biggest lesson for my first year running my brand is, don't think you know everything. When I first started up my brand, I'd watched a bunch of business videos on YouTube and listened to a bunch of podcasts, and I considered myself an entrepreneur because I'd tried to start up a couple business before that failed, and I'd watched a couple videos online and I thought I understood business because of that. And there's just nothing truly like the actual experience and actually building the skill sets. You don't know what you don't know, and it's easy in your first year to think that you know everything, but I promise you that once you get to year 8, you look back at who you were in year 1 and you go, wow, that guy knew absolutely nothing. And I wish I was a little bit more humble, because I probably would have been a lot more open to learning and growing at that age. I hope that this video helps you navigate this crazy clothing brand journey. And if you're thinking about starting up a brand or you're already running one, you've got to check out the Apparel Success Mastermind. It's a monthly subscription where you get direct access to me, access to all my courses, access to a community of other clothing brand owners, and we do exclusive live streams in there every single month. You can learn more at apparelsuccessmastermind.com. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.